last section on number 4, I will cover some of the other things that have been happening around the place. Just within this time session that we have now, there really isn't time to cover everything that has come out with this new June 2020 release. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go and start. Let's go and have a look at the first of the features. And the first one we have here is the bullet charts, spark lines, and tables. So before we start, let me just take you through the app and just show you the sort of things it can do. I've created the first little button. If we look at the charts, at the moment it's showing our sales quantities versus whatever happens on our budget. And all of our numbers on the chart are around sales. This little button is a toggle one that will let us change, and we can see quantities instead. We click back, we'll go back to sales. Okay, so that's a little toggle button. One of the other new buttons allows you actions, so we can tell it we want to go to the next page, and if we want, we can go back to the previous page. A nice new feature that we put in with any of the drop-down boxes, so in our groupings, you're now able to align your grouping, so you can left, center, or right justify it if you want. And then I've added the date selection box. It's not new to this release, but I just like it. It's the one I've been using lately. So I've added it into some of the things we want to see. Right, and then so the first of our new changes really is within the bullet charts. And I have to admit, bullet charts were not on the top of my rockstar charts that I used to use before, but a lot of these features now make it a lot more interesting, a lot more usable. So these first 2 charts are both bullet charts. And you'll see the key difference in it. This first one, you've got your key measure, which in this case is our sales. So we're measuring our sales against a dimension. So we can see all my different bicycle accessories and bike parts and bicycles. The second option, and instead of going through a dimension, we're looking at 3 different of our measures. The advantage with these is that why I love these is each one of these has its own separate little axis. So I can be comparing how we're doing on our quantity of sales compared to the actual value of sales and how many products have we been selling. So I mean, in this example, you see our quantity is sitting at 671. It's still easily visible, even though I'm comparing it with another chart that's showing 1.6 million, and then our number of products is only 7. But they're all visible. If this was all in one chart, this number of products sold would be invisible. You wouldn't be able to see it anyway. Okay, any questions so far? But feel free, we will go into the edit mode just now, and I'll show you how these all work, but feel free if anyone wants to ask something as we go. Okay, within tooltips, another great feature, when you hover on any of the values now, the new tooltips allows you to add text. So this example, I've written this whole 5, 6 different lines of text that we can show. Then it also allows you to add further of your measures, other things you want to record. So instead, this graph generally just shows my proportion of sales across bikes and helmets as being my 2 key ones. But now with the tooltips, I can actually add further details. What was the actual value of the sales and my budgets as well. And there's no limit as to how many of these you can put on as you go along. Okay. So that's within the tooltips area. The nice thing within in the newer one now is if we go and look at pivot tables. Pivot tables has been quite a few changes, almost to bring it in line with what we used to see on the standard tables before, in terms of the fact that you can now change the color of your headings. You can change the color of your dimensions down the side. So here you can see I made them red, the accessories and things. A great feature is now this little scroll bar. And you see you can set it that it changes color on the writing, on your text below, whatever you're scrolling on. And then, and also you can right align, left, center, right align any of your measures and key figures now any of your descriptions going down the side here. Okay, so that's within your pivot table. The main changes that you'll notice, however, are on the standard table, and these are a lot of the changes that I've really got to like. And if we enlarge this, the newest changes within these spark lines, which we can see are in, I've created these 4 different types of spark lines we can use, and I've shown an example of all 4 of them within the report. Today, I'm just going to go quickly into have a look at the variance, where we're showing the number with a little, with our little icon next to it, and the way we can even do with this June, July, we can hide the value as well and just show value. As you see, it also has the scroll bar, the way to change the colors, the formatting of the text, the sizing of the boxes, all of those kind of things. Just a quick note on these spark lines. For any of those people out there who are not used to them and not sure what they actually do, if I look at the general spark line, this is the equivalent of any of your normal line charts that you would be creating. And the bar chart is much the same as your little bar chart. Now, the big advantage of it, if I close that, here is the same data. If I put this in one of our normal, this is the normal chart we had. This is my line chart, and here's all my different elements that I can sell. Nothing new here. The big thing when you're looking at the data like this top line kind of hogs the limelight. It dictates everything around here, and it's hard to see exactly what is happening on some of our bottom products. So for example, if I go and choose mountain bike shoes, and I say yes, now I can see that actually mountain bike shoes have been climbing for each of our different months from January to June this year. Now let's see what happens if I go back, and if I have a look at our spark line, you can see our spark line also showed that steady climb. If I remove our selection here and we look purely at all of the different lines, you can still see that for my MTB shoes, I can still see that general increase. So as a trend, this is a fantastic view of what's going on. So I always look at these, and to put it, describe the trend line, these new little spark lines, I consider it almost like a bar chart or a line chart, where we've taken that bar or line, and then, to use the technical term, they've squished it and made it so it'll fit into one little box like this. So you see, you've got none of your axes around it. You've got no labels under it or anything like that. So the key thing you'll find, if we go back to our other line chart, these charts generally, you're using some sort of date control at the bottom here. So here you can see I'm looking at all of my sales happen on the 1st of the month. So I've sold something in January, February, March, up until July. Generally, that's what you want to see on any of your charts. So hence, there is no real need to show the line, because the idea is you want to see what the trend is for any period. What period you look at is completely up to you. This could be month to date, year to date, rolling 35 days, whatever you want. Okay. Are there any questions yet before we go into edit mode, and I'll show you how we set up some of these things?
Can mountain bike shoes go downhill, because you say they only climb?
I only have climbing mountain bike shoes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's edit and let's go and play, see what fun games are in here. Okay, so firstly, within our buttons, within the buttons, you have the option for actions and navigation. So my first button is the one that had the toggle. And purely all I've done is I've chosen action where I can set a variable value. But you'll see within here, there are many actions that you can choose. The great thing about it is you can add actions to follow each other. So if I had this action, I could put another one to happen after that. Okay, this one purely all I've done is I've said, if my variable had a value 1, make it a 2, otherwise make it a 1. So it just toggles between 2 different numbers. Okay, then within appearance, you can add little icons. So I've put a little star in front, and I put it in the background. I went and put a picture. So fun things there. The second button, instead of using an action, this one used navigation. And again, there's a choice of all the different things you want to be able to do. So it's great on all of these. There's no coding needed. There's no set analysis. There's nothing fun. It's just literally choose what you want. Select how you want it to work. Within our dimensions, it's very easy. If I have a look at our grouping, they added the option now where you can choose to align it whichever format you want to go. Okay, so if we go and look at the first of our tables, let's have a look at the two bullet charts. The first thing you'll see, the bullet charts, these two tables, as I said, are exactly the same. All that I've done in this first one is I've created a dimension, and it allows me to have one measure with an option to add alternate measures so you can switch between them. If I look at the second one, because I didn't select a dimension, I am allowed multiple measures. Okay, so because they now work identical after that, once you made your call, so I'm going to play with this one. The great thing is that within each measure, if we scroll down, you will now see the option of a target. So within here, what I've put in is that I've said, based on my toggle switch, if the toggle is on a 1, then I want to show what the budget sales are. Otherwise, I want to see what the budget quantity is. Okay, and then to further enhance it, you can turn on these user segments. Now, this is similar to the ones you have on your KPIs at the moment, where you can set different levels. So basically what I did, as my little description here at the bottom says, I've put different colors at each of the percentages as we go up of our different budgets. So if I choose, say, this middle one, we have a look at his variable. This one I've said, I want to see 60% of whatever our budget is. And then within that, I can then set each of these different colors to whatever I want. So a similar way we do on the KPIs at the moment. The gradient then lets you change the options on here. The other key thing to look at is on the appearance side here, within your colors, you have the option here to set up the color of the actual bar. So we can keep it on this horrible looking orange mustard color, and then a different color for the target. Now, when I found the target, this one works best either in a very dark color, in the black, or the white. So something that gives a stark contrast so you can compare straight away what's happening on the different numbers as you look at it. But that's the key things on our bullet charts. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay, tooltips. Tooltips, no, sorry, is that someone trying to talk? Okay. Right, so within tooltips, basically all I've done, I've used a normal chart here, but there in a normal bar chart, and you'll see at the bottom, there's now this option called tooltip. And what we can do in it, it has the option with custom, and if I remove that, that's the basic. Basic is what we used to have previously. So if I say done editing, and I hover on this, you will see the only things I can see on my hover is exactly what it's showing me on the graph, that bikes make up 77%. If I go back into edit, I can turn this on, and I can either, if I leave this unticked, I can scroll down and I can add further measures. So here I've put in that I want to see what our actual physical sales quantity was, and here what our budgets were. So I added two new measures, but I can add more if I want. So with that added, when I say done, now if I click on any of these, now I have the ones we had before that are group in the 77%, but now I have my two new ones. So I can see total sales and total budget. And then just to make sure you've got all options covered, you can tell it, well, you don't want the tooltip to show you what the report already shows you. So if you tick that to say hide the basic and remove here, now when I hover, it only shows me the measures that I've now added, not the things that the report was already showing. So really that covers all three of the options you could possibly want to see on your tooltip. Okay, let's go back into edit mode and let's go and have a look at our table, at our pivot table. Basically within the pivot table, this now resembles what a lot of the features you used to have already within the standard table. If you drop down now, you now scroll down a bit, you have the option now to put your background colors, your text color. So in this example, I've told it text color red, and that's why you see accessories, bikes, etc. red. Now, the great option is you can choose colors here for each of your individual dimensions or your measures, or you can set it up as a default for everything at the bottom, which is what I'll show you a bit later. But so within each of your dimension here, I've chosen that I wanted red and I wanted it right aligned. The second one, I could leave it in something completely different colors, different style, everything. Right. Then if you go down to appearance controls the global layout of the whole visualization. So within here, if you go to presentation, the new little box, the styling box, this little box gives you control of everything now. So within your styling box, now you can change the size of the header. So I made mine a light blue. It's a little bit hidden on the side there. I made my content a bit larger, and I made it this horrible mustard color again, which I don't particularly like. So let's go and let's change it to something. And you can make that bigger or smaller as you go as well. And here's the option now to set up that hover if you want it on or off. So this is the feature that then gives you your scroll bar as you're rolling up and down. So you can turn it on, choose what color you want that to be, and what color you want the writing, your text underneath to be. So here I could go and tell it I also want that text to be white when it displays. And that way when I hover, it definitely makes it very distinctive as to which line you're working on at any particular time. The other feature on the side is when you're looking at your data, you can now change the scroll bar down the side of your report and make it small, medium, or large. This is very useful, especially if you're working on an iPad or something like that, and you need a wider bar that you can, someone with fingers like mine, you can actually find it and move around properly. But it'll be easier, I'll demo it on this report here. You'll see on the side here, we can go into him. He's got exactly the same styling on our standard table. I go scroll down to him, I choose styling, and I can set up that I wanted a large scroll bar. So if I say done, if I go to him on the side here, there I've got a large scroll bar down the side. Okay. So let's go back into edit mode. And again, let's have a look at this, at the standard table. This is the most exciting one. This is where most of the changes have happened. Okay, so as I said, firstly, a lot of these are standard fields that we've set up before. I'm just going to have a quick look at this variance. My function is just my budget minus my sales. And what I've done here is that I've said, as we scroll down, previously we used to have the option of text, just to show the number, what was the difference. Now, with the previous release in April, they added the indicator, which now allows you to for me, I've set, okay, if our budget is greater than sales, let's show it as red. We haven't reached it. And if it's green, we haven't reached it. So I made it 0. In here, I can go and choose a color and any of my little boxes to put on here. Hence, you see my number here in this column. The 400 got the red down arrow, 39 got a green up. Okay. As you scroll down a little bit, the very next button lets you decide whether you want to show that it's 400 that you're behind or 3,900 above. So you can just tick it to remove that number. If space is an issue on your line or you just want to see an indicator telling you up or down. Okay, so that feature was there previously, but I don't think it's been used a lot, so hence the reason I want to show it again today. Okay, within spark lines, and don't worry, don't panic when you see some of these conditions are hidden purely, and I'll show you within the spark line. All I've done is on my spark line, the show column if. So what I've done is based on our little toggle. If the toggle was set to 1, then it shows my sales spark. If it's set to 2, this will be hidden and it'll show a separate column that will show quantities. Hence. So before we have a look at the spark, I think we should go and have a look at the expression first. So I'm hoping most of you have seen set analysis before, used at least a basic version of it. Purely all I've done, this little bit here, put in here, basically controls the fact that if I choose a date that I want to look at, my bar chart doesn't lose all its other dates. Okay, so if I demo that quickly, if we go to done mode, you'll see at the moment it's showing sales for July, budget for July. But I can choose a date over here. If I say I want to see, say, March, now I'm looking at sales for March, budget for March. Let's make it a bit bigger. And see what's happening for March. But my sparks, my charts, must still show all 7 months that I've got data for. This loses all value if it only shows 1 month as a dot. So it's important to be able to do our set analysis there. Let's go back into edit sheet. And let's go back a bit further. So what we've said here is if I scroll down, again, we had that option. We looked at the representation just now and we looked at the indicator. Now there's the option to choose a mini chart. And this is where all of our sparks happen. The first thing it asks is what dimension do you want to use? Now, if you remember when I showed this, the monthly sales report on the side here, we had date going along the bottom. So that's what we would choose as our dimension that we're using across. And then this option lets you choose each of the different 4 that I've shown in this report. So if I choose the bar, let's make him a bit bigger so you can see what's happening. Let's put him back to sparkline. And so we're playing with this column here. And you'll see it change as I change each of these. Positive, negative, it changes the layout. Now, what you'll see, if I choose bars, and let's go back to, let's put them back on sparkline, you'll see some of them offer the option to remove dots or put dots on. So I can remove it, then it's a basic line. You see it has got 2 dots still, okay? This again is another option. On the side here, regardless of our charts, you can set up colors. And automatically it lets you choose what color you want the whole line to be. And then do you want to highlight what your maximum minimum values are in your report? And do you want to highlight your maximum, your first and last values within your report? Okay, hence you see there's green and red on the different ones, or blue and green and whatever I've played around with on here as I've gone through. So that's the different colors options. Now, this last one, the y-axis. Okay, so x-axis was easy, that's our time. Y-axis is your value. What they've done is they've given you an option, and it's a very clever one, I believe. At the moment, this is the graph it's showing, because it's showing local. Each of these graphs is as if I'd only selected to see that one description. So hence the reason, so if we look at MTB shoes, you can see that steady increase. However, I can choose to say, no, I want one global y-axis, which means, so now this is exactly the same layout that we would have seen on that chart I showed you a bit earlier on our line graph. So again, you can see it's now a lot more difficult to see the individual trends. So this is a case which actually suits you and your business needs, and what does your user want as to how you want to look at it. As a preference, I prefer the local one, but that's just me. Okay, and then finally on this, if we go down to the presentation, again, you will see the styling box. And the styling box is identical to the one that's on the pivot table now. So again, you can change your font sizes, your colors, the scroll bar size, all of those kind of things. So I feel sorry for the poor little pivot table. Just as it feels it's caught up, They add new features into the standard table, and the standard table goes ahead again. Okay, but that is the first part of the demo. Some of the bullet charts, sparklines, tables. Does everybody have any questions they want to ask around that? Okay, so let's carry on to the second part. These are the org charts. Org charts surprised me a bit at the beginning because the way it draws it up, when I look at this, I straight away see a hierarchy chart. Now, this isn't a hierarchy chart. It's an org chart. Its purpose is to show the relationship between the different elements. So you can see from visually that Cindy reports into Amanda, who reports to me. Oh, I'm the boss. This is a great chart. I like this one. But as you can see, my sales here only reflect what I physically sold. This doesn't automatically sum up as you go up the chart. And that's a standard feature within Qlik Sense. So if we compare it, if we look at a normal bar chart, you can see my sales here and Amanda's sales. Those match exactly what you will see as sales on each of these blocks here. Now, one of the interesting things is if you look at this chart, if I look at James, you can see it shows his name, his grade, a description, and our measure. Now, that description is only visible in this tooltip. It's not visible if you just look at the diagram here. You have a choice. So in here, I chose to show the measure, so I can see sales. In this bottom chart, I chose to show the description instead, because there isn't enough space to show both. So it's your call as to which one you want to show. You'll also notice if I look at James, it shows his name, but if I look at me, I'm sort of cut off. The top bit of my name is cut off. So if I make this into full screen, I still can't really see it, but I can just, if I click, I can drag this around to wherever I want. And if you've got your mouse, you can scroll on, make it bigger and smaller. Okay, and move it around wherever you want. Let's make him a bit smaller and pull him back over here so we can see him. Now, the big thing is, if I look at this, the second one where we've got our text, if I make it bigger, it's like a magnifying glass. It just makes the box bigger. It doesn't let me see all the description that I wrote in here. I still only can see that as a tooltip. Okay. That's just one of the things to remember. So it's almost like Twitter, you must write less characters if you want it visible all the time on your report. Okay. Where the power does come in, where it can be very useful, is if I use it as a selection option. So if I select Amanda and I click on her and say, yes, I want to see her, you'll see it automatically selects Amanda plus the 3 people who report into her. So all my other charts are now showing for those 4 people. So in that way, it helps a great deal. Okay. So that covers, sorry, is there any questions so far? I thought I heard someone about to ask. Okay, so let's go into edit mode. Yes, sorry, is that someone trying to speak? Okay, don't worry, there'll be lots of chance for questions later on. So if we go into edit mode, if we go and look at the org chart, it's a very simple setup in terms of usage. Basically, all it asks for is 2 dimensions and then your measure. Now, measure is not, you don't have to have it, as I showed in that bottom example, but you need these 2. This report 2 is literally all it does. Its job is to build the structure, the whole org structure for you. So it has very limited amount of things you can do. You literally give it a name, which I haven't even seen it display it anywhere. So this is almost a placeholder to tell you how this works. So within your data, it assumes that in your data, you've got an employee ID and a report to for that person. So in Cindy's data, Cindy will have her employee ID of, say, 20, and she will report to Amanda. James will also report to Amanda. So that is all that that field is really giving to us. Within employee ID, however, this is where you can set up a lot more of your information to show. So here I've shown employee ID as my key, but when I display it, I don't want to see that. I want to see the actual name. So I can tell it to show in the card title the person's name, and that's why you see Richard, Amanda, Cindy on the side. It then gives you options, a subtitle, a description. This description is the one I said, remember, you can only see it on the screen if you didn't choose a measure, then you can put something in here. Within the subtitle, because it's linked with FX, you can put anything you want. And for those who are interested and want to play around, at the moment, all I did, I set it up that it'll show what grade the person is. But I've also added some more coding. If you want to uncode this and play around, it will do aggregations and sums to actually roll up your totals. So it can be built such that you can get Amanda's total there. You can get it to show all of the totals below adding up into it. But that needs coding. Okay, to allow that feature within there. Okay, that covers the org chart. I think the key thing to remember on it is that it doesn't automatically sum up. So there was, QlikSense already had mechanisms where you could build a hierarchy. So for example, if I had a hierarchy set up, and in my bottom chart here, I had my company with Cape Town, Gauteng, and Limpopo. If I choose to go and see what's happening in Gauteng, it can show that those are the three people, and there's my layout for the Gauteng provinces and regions. The other thing to show within a chart, this current layout, let's say done and remove my selections first. If I go back into edit mode, at the bottom, if I go to appearance, within presentation, there's an option here for entire tree, which is what this is showing, because mine is a simple graph. I've only got 3 levels, but in many org structures, you've got a lot more. So often the easier one to choose is this expand collapse option. So if I say done, let's make this one full screen so it's a bit easier to see. And let's drag him in the middle and make him bigger. What it will show is Amanda has 3 people, and the -3 says that we've opened it. So you can see who they are. This person has got 2 people, but they're hidden away at the moment. So I can click on there to open them. I can go back and click on this one to open both. I can hide them at whatever level. So up there, reopen it, going down whichever drill down you want. So this, for some of the bigger org structures, this would make more sense as your default view. Okay, that sort of covers everything we're going to look at on the org charts. Anybody has any questions they want to see here? Okay. Next one, desktop authentication. So we've all seen the message using our desktops that as of 1st of July, desktop is no longer free. You have to be able to authenticate and use, it must authenticate to your server version. It's nothing to be alarmed about. It's not a difficult process at all. And I'm sure many of you have actually put it in place. But for those who haven't, if you're using your the QlikSense app already, then you'll find this first step has already been done. So we open up this one and have a look a bit. Basically, your administrator within the QMC would go to your virtual proxy, and they will set up this client authentication link and give it a nice name. I've called mine my Qlik server. Okay. Once they've created that, all they will have to do, we look at the second screen, you hit the generate button and it creates this piece of code that's just got to be copied, and that gets then pasted into email sent to all of us. So our administrator can send it to all of us. We can then take that link that we get given, go to your favorite browser, whether it's Chrome, Internet Explorer, whichever one you want. You paste it in, and it will open up a message saying it's trying to open QlikSense browser. Just click on open to set it up, and it will automatically come to this screen here. And it will set up a new button called, for me, my Qlik server. Okay. The other option, if you're already using QlikSense and you're on the hub, from the hub, if you go to the top right-hand corner, the 3 dots, and you click on there, you'll see an option here. We can click client authentication. Clicking on that will do exactly the same thing. It will again bring you to the open browser and set up your desktop. So the key thing to remember, the authentication works from the browser to the desktop, not from desktop back to the browser, which is what I spent many days trying to set up in the first place. So hopefully I've saved you a lot of time and effort. If you haven't set up this, remember to go this approach through your browser, then set up the desktop. Anybody have any questions on that part? Cool, great. Okay, so other enhancements. So these are things I'm not really going to cover today. However, I have, you'll see on the next screen, I have shown my email address and the support email address. If there's things you see on here that interest you, you want to know more about it, you want us to contact you and give you more information, please feel free. In the work around the inside bot, trying to set it up to make installation even easier. I know I've tried one of the older ones, older method when it was about 11 steps. This is a lot easier to handle. One of the other nice thing for me personally, this idea within the end printing from Newsstand, users can go and remove and delete their own published reports. That certainly makes admin a lot easier. And the idea that you can now pass your QlikSense theme to end printing, also fantastic news as far as I know, as far as I believe. Within the embedded analytics, the big thing here, the command line interface, the CLI, this, especially for the administrator people, will make life a lot easier. Certainly now you can automate a lot of those processes. A lot of the things that happen in the background that, you know, as a developer or someone who's using some of the models, not even normally aware of the amount of effort and work that goes into the back there. Okay, so as I said, we're not really going to cover this in much more detail, but if you do have questions, please feel free to ask them now, email me. Can't promise to know the answer, but we definitely will get back to you.
Hi, Richard.
Yes.
Yeah, Vinay speaking here. I just want to find out, this may already be available. I'm actually 2 years behind on QlikSense versions. I'm going to look into do an upgrade quite soon. But I just want to find out, I'm looking to do some passes from QlikSense to a Python model. Are there any prepackaged APIs on QlikSense as yet?
Sorry, just say the last sentence again.
Are there any prepackaged APIs that will allow me to pass data from QlikSense to like a Python model?
Well, they are. I know that if you use the Qlik Analytics extension, it has some of the links. I know that the ones to R are there already. I believe they are to Python as well. I would have to confirm it. I haven't used it.
Okay.
But I know there is the server-side extension that you can use to link to Python or R at this stage already. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I'll have a look.
Okay.
And lastly, are there any changes to the script editor, the data load editor in the newer versions?
No, nothing's changed that I've picked up, especially in terms of any syntax that causes an older version not to work anymore. So definitely not in that way. And I haven't really seen any new commands as such so far. But yeah, maybe someone else has seen something I hadn't, but not that I know of.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so then if we look, we go back. So within references, basically anyone who wants to have a look a bit further, Qlik themselves have put a lot of effort and time into preparing some YouTube videos, those kind of things. So I've tried to build you all the links you need to all of these. At the bottom, you'll see there's a contact details. This is our office number at the bottom here. There's my personal email address. You're welcome to contact me, or the support address. Where definitely one of us will get back to you probably quicker than it comes direct to me. You know how it is. And then what I've done, I've added a link here that will take you to the upgrade process. So within Qlik Sense, there's a whole documentation on how to do the upgrade yourself. So the idea here, if you've got your own IT team or you feel confident enough, you would be able to do the upgrade for yourselves. If you would like RIC to help you, we're very willing and very able to come and do that for you. We've got a special at the moment. We're offering a time and material option on here. It's very difficult always to say how long things will take because you never know everyone's situation, what servers they're running, what versions they're on. But at the moment, we want to offer, say, on time and materials, we believe at worst case scenario, we would be looking at maximum of about 9,000 Rand. If it's less hours, it will certainly cost a lot less. But that's the sort of cost you would be looking at if you asked us to come in and help you out with it. But that sort of takes us to the end of today's session. I'd like to open it up and ask anyone has any other questions, anything you want to see again, or anything to check on. Don't forget, don't run away. If you want the app, don't forget just to go to files and download it. The app is there and an Excel sheet with the data. So you're welcome to play with it, enhance it, change it, go wild, have fun. But really, yes, anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, Richard, it's Vinay again. Would there, off the top of your head, like if I'm upgrading to this version from June 2018, I know it's quite a long time ago, do you think it would be seamless? Or there could be a few, I've got to jump through a few hoops first with the previous versions before I get to June 2020?
No, you should be all right from there. What I found, the June from 2017, if you're sort of 2017 version onwards, back, it can be pretty difficult. If you're anything from sort of start of 2018 onwards, it's not a complicated process. It's not too bad at all. That doesn't mean, we know technology, how things can work and the setups, but generally I would say you would be all right. It's a standard upgrade, but I would still recommend, as the website says, back up your server beforehand. Make sure you've got a copy you can go back to if you want to. And then it's a basic case of implementing and following through the steps as defined by that guide.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Pleasure. Okay, so what I'm going to do, if we have a look within the group here. I just want to check if anyone has raised hands or anything. If we go back to the calendar, to my meeting chat. You should be able to see if we go to the files. So assuming everyone can still see my screen, but on here you will see there's the Excel data file and the Qlik Sense June file. I've tried to make them as small as possible, so there's not a lot of data. The idea is to show what it can do, not make massive files that are difficult for you to download. Okay. Okay. If you're not able to get to the app and you would like a copy of it, please feel free, just send an email either to my address, my email, so I've shown here at the bottom, as richardm@ricconsulting.co.za, or to support, and we'll make a plan to get it to you. But okay, if there's no other questions, that brings us to the end of the webinar. I'd like to thank you all. Appreciate the time. Please stay safe, stay warm, obey all the protocols, and look forward to speaking to you all very soon, maybe on one-on-one basis. Please feel free to contact me at any point if you want more information on today. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks a lot, everybody. It's been great fun.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.